The plains around Coleman Briggs Ranch stretched endless and silent, touched only by the morning wind whispering through tall grass. For years, Coleman had lived here alone, a man carved by solitude and the fierce honesty of the land. Routine guided his days, tending horses, repairing fences, and keeping watch over the horizon like a soldier guarding a forgotten frontier. It was this watchful habit that made him notice the small figure stumbling through the dust. At first, it looked like a mirage, a boy, torn clothes hanging from his thin frame, dirt and blood smeared across his face. His steps were unsteady, desperate. Coleman felt instinct prick at him before logic had the chance to speak. Someone was running for their life. He set his rifle down, stepping forward. "That's close enough, son." The boy collapsed to his knees, breath shaking, eyes full of fear far older than his years. "Sir, please, help." His voice cracked, raw and thin. "They're coming. They killed my mama. They burned our home." Coleman knelt, steady hands lifting the boy's face. Beneath the grime, the child couldn't have been more than 10. "Slow down. Who's coming?" "Riders," the boy whispered, trembling. "Mean men. They thought we stole something." Mama hid my sister Lizzie in the woods. Tears cut clean streaks on his cheeks. "Please, hide her. Don't let them take her." Coleman exhaled, jaw tightening. The West had never been gentle, but harming children. That was the mark of wolves, not men. He stood slowly, a quiet oath forming in his chest. Protect the helpless, no matter the price. "What's your name, boy?" "Ethan," he answered, voice shaking. "All right, Ethan, we'll get your sister. Nobody's taking you to—" But Ethan's head snapped up, panic rising again. "No, if they see me gone, they'll know she's safe. I just had to find someone brave." His small fists clenched. "Don't let them hurt her." Coleman stared, struck by the boy's courage and desperation. A child asking a stranger to risk everything, because the world had given him no other choice. He grabbed his rifle, checked his belt for ammo. "Point the way." They moved quickly across dry grass and scattered pines. Soon they found her Lizzie, tiny and trembling behind a fallen log, eyes wide like a deer cornered by wolves. Ethan rushed to her, holding her tight. Coleman felt a sting in his chest, a reminder of a life long gone. Before solitude became armor, he lifted Lizzie gently, guiding both children back toward the ranch. But even before they reached the fence line, the sharp echo of distant hoofbeats rolled across the plains. Dust rose on the horizon, riders approaching fast. Coleman didn't look frightened. He looked ready. The peace of his lonely life had been shattered, but his purpose had never been clearer. The sun dipped low as evening shadows stretched across Coleman Briggs Ranch. The wind had changed, carrying with it the faint drumbeat of hooves far beyond the horizon. Trouble was coming, and Coleman knew it. Inside the barn, a lantern's glow cast long, restless shadows. Ethan sat on an overturned bucket, clutching a cup of water with both trembling hands. Coleman cleaned his rifle with calm, practiced movements. There was silence, the kind that presses on the chest and forces the truth out. "They'll come tonight," Coleman said finally. "No fear, just certainty." Ethan swallowed hard. "They don't stop. If they don't find us, they'll burn everything just like before." Coleman set the rifle aside and crouched in front of the boy. "Listen to me. Fear only wins if you let it make your choices. Tonight, you let me make the choices." Ethan nodded, trying to be brave. But his eyes betrayed him. He had seen death, and too young. Coleman moved across the barn, lifting floorboards to reveal a hidden cellar stocked with food, water, and supplies. You and your sister will stay here when they arrive. You don't come out unless I say so. The boy hesitated. What if they hurt you? Coleman gave a faint, weary smile, the kind only men who have lived hard years wear. Then you run. But as long as I'm standing, no one touches you. They carried Lizzie into the cellar. She clung to Ethan, silent and wide-eyed. Coleman lowered a blanket around them, placing a lantern and canteen within reach. Their tiny figures in the dark space tugged at something deep inside him. Memories he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Before closing the hatch, Ethan whispered, "Sir, you don't have to do this." Coleman paused. "Yes, I do. Sometimes a man doesn't choose the fight. It comes to his door." Outside, the first stars appeared as night settled heavy over the plains. Coleman secured the barn and loaded spare shells into his belt. He walked the perimeter, setting tripwires, placing lanterns, positioning barrels and tools as improvised barricades. No wasted movement, no hesitation. He paused on the porch, staring into the darkening fields. Then he whispered to the wind, as if speaking to ghosts, "If you're coming, come honest." And somewhere far away, faint but undeniable hooves answered. Night wrapped itself around the ranch like a shroud, heavy and watchful. Coleman Briggs stood on the porch, sharpening his knife in slow, deliberate strokes. Each scrape of steel echoed in the stillness, a quiet promise that he would not go quietly into fear. The lantern beside him burned steady, one small flame holding back the darkness. Beneath the barn, Ethan and Lizzie clung to each other in the cellar. The thick wood muffled sound, but every distant creak, every thud from above, carried weight. Lizzie's whisper trembled in the dark. Will he beat them? Ethan swallowed, glancing up toward the hatch as if he could see the cowboy through solid boards. He's strong, he answered, voice soft but determined. And brave. He wanted to believe that. Needed to. Above, Coleman loaded spare cartridges into his belt pouch, then checked every window and door again. He had defended land before wolves, thieves, storms, but this was different. This time, 2 small lives rested on his decisions. Solitude had shaped him, but duty now defined him. Outside, the wind shifted. Dust lifted faintly, whispering through the grass. Then, far on the horizon, a faint orange shimmer torchlight. Coleman exhaled through his nose, slow, steady, almost peaceful. The waiting was over. He climbed to the barn loft higher ground, better aim. From there, he could see the figures approaching, growing clearer with every heartbeat. Riders 5, maybe more behind them, armed, confident, predators moving in a pack. For a moment, silence. Even insects seemed to hush, as though nature itself bowed to the danger closing in. Then came the first shout, a sharp, commanding call. The riders emerged fully into view, horses snorting, dust swirling around them. They stopped at the edge of the yard, torches flickering like restless fire spirits. Coleman leaned on the railing, rifle steady. "Evening," he called. His voice was calm, a man welcoming company rather than death. One rider advanced, broad-shouldered, arrogant, certain of power. "We're looking for 2 brats," he growled. "Hand him over and we don't turn your land into ash." Coleman's eyes narrowed, jaw tightening just a fraction. This ranch won't be token orders from cowards tonight. A low rumble of anger rolled through the men. They expected fear. They met steel instead. "You're outnumbered," the leader spat. Coleman's tone never broke. "I've seen worse odds. And worse men." A tense breath. A twitch of fingers near a holster. Then, a shot cracked the night. Splinters burst from the railing beside Coleman's arm. The riders had chosen violence. Coleman answered in kind, a single, thunderous shot that punched the torch from the lead rider's hand and sent embers exploding into the dark. Horses reared, men cursed. "Boys," Coleman murmured, voice low and dangerous. "You crossed a line you won't walk back from." The war for the ranch had begun, and he intended to finish it. Chaos erupted the moment Coleman's bullet shattered the torch. Horses reared, shadows twisted. Men shouted. The quiet ranch transformed into a battlefield in a heartbeat. Coleman stayed low in the loft, calm in the storm. Patience was his weapon as much as steel. He counted footsteps, watched movement, waited for desperation to push them into mistakes. The riders scrambled, trying to locate him in the dark. Another torch flared to life below, casting jagged orange across their faces, anger, frustration, fear hidden behind bravado. One man raised his rifle. Too slow. Coleman fired again, a clean, cold shot. Wood exploded behind the rider as the bullet grazed his shoulder, spinning him out of the saddle. He hit the dirt hard, screaming. Panic rippled through the group. The leader barked orders, but men don't listen to commands when shadows bite back. They began circling, looking for openings, trying to flush him out. Inside the cellar, Ethan flinched at every gunshot. Lizzie held her hands over her ears, eyes squeezed shut. Dust fell with each impact as bullets struck wood above them. "Stay still," Ethan whispered, voice shaking. "He said he'd protect us." Lizzie whispered back, voice tiny but fierce. "He always keeps his word." Up in the loft, Coleman inhaled, slow and deep. His heart beat steady, one of the few things in this world he could still control. He shifted positions quietly, never firing from the same angle twice. A lantern below shattered as a bullet hit it, flames licking hay before Coleman kicked dirt down to smother it. One spark and everything would become hellfire, including the children below. "Come out, old man," a rider shouted, voice cracked with tension. "Ain't worth dying for thieves." Coleman's answer cut through the dark like a blade. "They're just children. What does that make you?" Silence. Then another volley of gunfire, wild, angry, desperate. Bullets punched holes through the boards. One whistled past Coleman's hat, slicing the brim. He didn't flinch. Down below, the wounded rider crawled toward his horse, groaning. Without hesitation, the leader kicked him aside and took cover behind a trough. To him, loyalty was weakness. Fear was currency. Coleman watched the cruelty and felt an old familiar fire, not rage, but resolve. He had seen men like this before. Once they took innocence, they never stopped. "Get ready to burn him out," someone yelled. Coleman's breath caught. Fire, that was their plan all along. He braced himself, knowing the night had only begun. And in that moment, under a sky dense with stars and gun smoke, he swore to himself, if these riders wanted a war, they would learn what war truly meant. The first whiff of kerosene hit the air, sharp, oily, unmistakable. Torchlight flickered as two riders dismounted, sloshing fuel across dry hay and porch boards. Coleman's jaw tightened. Fire meant death. Not just for him, for the children. He fired, taking down a torch and sending one man stumbling back. Flames sputtered in the dirt. "Ain't no flames on this land tonight," he growled. The riders panicked, ducking and scrambling for cover. The leaders snarled orders, but their confidence had already bled into the dust. Inside the cellar, smoke seeped through the cracks. Ethan covered Lizzie with his jacket, trying to calm her trembling. "He's fighting for us," he whispered, as much to himself as to her. Above, Coleman rolled to the opposite window and fired. Again, a clean shot that shattered another lantern. Sparks sprayed across dirt and wood, but nothing caught. He whispered a silent prayer, not for victory, but for time. A rider crept toward the barn, revolver raised. Coleman spotted the glint of metal and fired once more, dropping him into the dirt. The night swallowed his scream. Only then did Coleman pause, chest rising slow, listening. The wind shifted. Horses snorted nervously. The attackers' breaths rattled in the dark. "You can't win," the leader shouted, voice cracking like brittle pride. "One man don't stop justice." Coleman's reply was cold iron. "You're not justice. You're fear wrapped in a badge." He moved again, silent, methodical. This wasn't rage. It was duty. Below, a rider suddenly charged toward the house with a torch. Coleman fired, missed by inches, and the man sprinted behind the well. The torch hit the porch edge, sparks jumping like angry insects. Coleman cursed under his breath, sliding down the ladder. He burst out the barn door, fired point-blank at the burning wood, killing the flame before it grew. Heat singed his sleeve. Smoke curled around him. A bullet cracked past his head. Another. He dove behind a trough as dust exploded around him. They had repositioned. They were learning. "You're gonna die for nothing," the leader roared. Coleman steadied his breathing, thumb running along the worn stock of his rifle. If a man don't stand for something, he dies already. The riders regrouped. Someone whistled to signal a flank. Coleman stood slowly, shoulders straight, despite the chaos. He knew the night would break soon, one way or another. Gunsmoke curled in the moonlight. Horses pawed the dirt. 2 innocent children hid beneath the floorboards. And Coleman Briggs, a man who once believed he had nothing left, braced for the next storm. The night sky shimmered with smoke as the battle dragged on. Coleman wiped sweat and ash from his brow, breath steady despite the chaos. The riders had regrouped, angrier, louder, more reckless. They weren't just hunting children now. They wanted revenge for pride wounded by one stubborn man. A sudden burst of shouting snapped through the dark. 2 riders broke from cover, sprinting toward the barn with torches blazing. Flames licked the air as they hurled them onto dry hay. Fire erupted, hungry and fast. Coleman didn't hesitate. He charged from behind the trough, rifle firing once. A torch hit the dirt, dying in sparks. Second shot. The first rider staggered backward, clutching his chest. The other fled, throwing another torch into the barn before disappearing behind the corral. Flames climbed the barn wall. Hay popped and snapped, rising into crackling embers. Heat pushed against Coleman's face as he rushed forward, grabbing buckets and dousing water where he could. But the fire fought back, spreading with cruel speed. Inside the cellar, Ethan covered Lizzie's ears as the roar grew louder. "The barn's burning," he whispered, heart pounding. "He's still out there." Lizzie clung tighter, eyes wide and shining with fear. "He won't leave us." Above them, sparks drifted like fiery snow as Coleman dragged tarp and soil to smother burning edges. He coughed, waving smoke from his eyes. If the barn fully ignited, the tunnel entrance below could fill with heat, or worse, collapse. The riders regrouped near the fence, watching with twisted satisfaction. One laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Let him burn. He ain't stopping us." Coleman heard it. He turned, eyes like steel under the glow. "I don't burn easy." He fired, hitting the man square in the leg. The laughter choked into a scream. Chaos rippled again, the riders scattering in panic. Fear had returned, And this time it felt real. Coleman ducked behind the trough, lungs burning. He'd bought a moment, nothing more. The barn still burned, stubborn and wild. Smoke drifted toward the house, toward the cellar. He couldn't let it reach them. He pulled a shovel and beat back flames like a man fighting the devil himself. Every strike was desperation mixed with duty. Sparks landed on his coat. Sweat stung his eyes. But he did not yield. The barn roared, alive with fire and fury. Horses cried from their stalls, kicking at doors. Coleman's heart clenched, but he had to choose. Save the horses or save the children. Duty decided for him. He backed away, chest heaving. Flames filled the sky, lighting the ranch like a hellish dawn. "Hold on," he whispered toward the cellar. "I'm not done yet." And as the barn timbers groaned and cracked, the riders prepared their next move, knowing the fire had tilted fate in their favor. But Coleman Briggs wasn't broken. Not yet. The barn collapsed in a shower of sparks, sending a thunderous boom across the land. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. Even the riders paused to watch the inferno fall. Smoke billowed upward, blotting out stars. Embers drifted like dying fireflies across the yard. Coleman stood near the porch, rifle in hand, jaw clenched. Loss burned in his chest, but grief had no space here. The barn was gone, but the children were not. That was what mattered. A rider whistled sharply, signaling movement. Two figures moved along the fence line, crouched low, rifles ready. They aimed not at Coleman, but at the cellar hatch. His heart iced over. They'd figured it out. He sprinted toward the house, firing mid. One bullet struck the ground near the riders, forcing them to dive behind the woodpile. Another shot zipped past Coleman, grazing his sleeve. He slid behind a wagon wheel, sucking air through his teeth. "You're protecting ghosts, old man." The lead rider taunted, "Those kids ain't worth dying for." Coleman fired back, not a bullet this time, but words like iron. Every life's worth fighting for, especially the ones who can't fight yet. The riders answered with lead. Bullets thudded into the wagon, splintering spokes. Coleman reloaded, fingers quick and sure, despite the smoke and sweat. He moved to a rain barrel, then to the porch post. Never still. Never easy to target. Inside the cellar, Ethan pressed his ear to the wood. Gunshots echoed above like thunder trapped in walls. He whispered shakily, "He's right above us." Lizzie gripped his hand, tears streaking her soot-smudged cheeks. "He won't let them take us." Outside, torchlight flickered again as a rider crawled closer to the house carrying kerosene. Coleman fired, hit the lantern instead. It exploded in bright sparks, forcing the man back with a yelp. "You learn slow," Coleman muttered. He moved again, body aching, lungs raw. The yard was smoke and fire and shadows, a battleground built from survival and grit. But he was tiring. Every breath felt heavier, every reload slower. He leaned against the porch rail, gathering strength. He had one mission left: keep them away from that cellar. The leader's voice rose over the chaos, sharp and venomous. "We end him now. Then we take the kids." Coleman lifted his head, eyes blazing through soot. "Try me." Hooves thundered. Shadows charged. He braced himself, teeth gritted, rifle steady. This wasn't just a fight for land anymore. It was a fight for promise, for redemption, for every lost piece of himself he saw in those children. The riders came. Coleman faced them, and the night held its breath once more. The thunder of hooves shook the ground as the riders charged. Coleman stood on the porch, feet planted, rifle braced against his shoulder like it was carved there. He did not blink, did not breathe. He aimed with the patience of a man who had lived long enough to know each shot mattered more than the next breath. The first rider broke ahead of the others, pistol raised. Coleman fired one clean shot. The man fell like a stone, horse stumbling and veering off. Dust exploded. Shouts followed. A second rider rushed in, swinging around the well to flank him. Coleman saw the movement, fired again. Missed by inches, but close enough to force the man low behind the trough. Bullets answered, splintering wood around Coleman's shoulders. He dropped behind a post, breath harsh, muscles tight. His ribs burned with fatigue, but he pushed himself upright again. No rest here, no room to falter. Inside the cellar, the children felt each vibration through the earth. Ethan clenched his fists, whispering, "Hold on, hold on." Lizzie leaned against him, eyes wide, silent prayer behind them. Above, Coleman rolled across the porch boards, snatching the pistol from his belt. One rider tried to climb the porch rail. Coleman fired point blank. The man tumbled back, hitting dirt hard. There were fewer now, but desperation makes men dangerous. The leader roared from behind the corral, voice sharp like broken glass. "You die tonight, Briggs." Coleman wiped grime from his brow, voice low and steady. "You keep saying that." "Still waitin'." He ducked as another bullet screamed past, tearing a chunk from the wall. Smoke drifted across the yard, heat pressing in. Barn embers still glowing behind him like ghosts. Then quiet. A pause in gunfire. A shift in wind. The kind of silence that feels like a held breath before the storm breaks again. Coleman peered over the railing. The riders weren't retreating. They were spreading out, surrounding, cornering. Him like wolves moving in slow, hungry arcs. He exhaled. All right, he dropped empty shells. Loaded again, hands working by instinct. Not thought. If it's wolves, you want to be. He stepped forward into the open yard, rifle raised, spine straight. Then you hunt me face to face. No fear, only resolve, stubborn as the land beneath his boots. The riders blinked, taken aback. They did not expect a man alone to step into death willingly. Then one yelled anger or panic. It didn't matter. It triggered the next moment. Gunfire erupted. Coleman dove, rolled behind a barrel, firing mid. His shoulders screamed, his legs heavy, but his aim stayed true. A horse reared, a rider fell. Dust clouded the air, turning shapes into ghosts. He felt the world tighten around him, danger in every shadow, injustice in every bullet. But he was still standing. And as long as he stood, they would not pass. Coleman pressed his back against the water barrel, chest heaving, hands trembling around the rifle stock. Sweat and smoke stung his eyes. He forced focus. Listening, footsteps, hooves, the faint crackle of dying flames. The battle was shifting. He could feel it in his bones. Two riders sprinted low along the fence, trying to sneak behind the porch. Coleman leaned out, fired. One man dropped, clutching his arm. The other dove behind stacked crates. Return fire ripped into the dirt near Coleman's boots, showering him with grit. His rifle clicked, empty. Breath sharp, he ducked behind the barrel, yanking rounds from his belt. His hands shook. Not fear, exhaustion, pure and heavy. He had been fighting alone for too long, bleeding strength, one breath at a time. A shout tore the night. The leader emerged from the shadows, a cruel grin cutting across his face like a scar. "You're done, Briggs. Ain't a man alive can keep standing this long." Coleman shoved fresh rounds into the chamber, jaw set. Funny thing, he snapped the bolt shut. I ain't dead yet. He stood, shot, ducked, moved again, relentless as a storm. Bullets sparked off the porch rails, tearing chips from the walls. One grazed his arm. Another tore the hat clean from his head. He didn't flinch, didn't give them the satisfaction. But the riders pressed harder. They were closing in, 3 left. Moving with coordinated cruelty, pushing him toward collapse. Desperation made them bold. It also made them reckless. One rider rushed him with a knife, teeth bare. Coleman caught him with the butt of the rifle, dropping him like a sack. But another bullet clipped Coleman's shoulder, spinning him into the dirt. Pain flared white. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself up, rifle shaky in his grasp. Inside the cellar, Ethan gasped. He's hurt. Lizzie grabbed his hand, whisper fierce. He's still fighting. Outside, Coleman staggered behind the wagon, breath ragged. Blood warmed his sleeve. The world felt heavier, the air thicker. He knelt, forcing clarity into his lungs. The leader stepped into view, revolver aimed steady. End of the line. Coleman wiped his mouth, smearing blood and dust. Ain't my line. He fired first. The leader jerked aside, bullet grazing his jacket. He cursed, ducking behind a post. Coleman dropped low, coughing, vision dimming from smoke and fatigue. The ranch felt like a graveyard of embers and echoes. Still, he rose again, because giving up meant handing the children to wolves. And Coleman Briggs had made a promise. The riders circled one last time, 3 shadows closing in. Sarah's face flashed in his memory. Soft voice, warm smile. Protect them. That was always her wish. He whispered, I know. He lifted the rifle, no hesitation, no surrender left in him. 1 man against 3. But he'd already decided. He would fall only after they did. And the night braced for the final strike. The night was nearly gone, but the battle still raged. Smoke settled low across the ranch like a ghost, carrying the smell of fire and gunpowder. Coleman knelt beside the wagon wheel, pressing a hand to his bleeding shoulder. His breath came shallow, muscles trembling. His body demanded rest, but his duty refused it. Only 3 riders remained, and they were done playing games. The leader barked orders, voice raw. Push him. Both sides. Boots scraped dirt as his men spread out, closing in like wolves circling a wounded buck. There was no hiding now, no tricks left. Just grit versus violence. Coleman lifted his rifle again, vision blurry but will unbroken. If he had 1 bullet left in his soul, he'd make it count. A rider burst from the right, pistol raised. Coleman fired a clean hit to the chest. The man dropped, dust swallowing him whole. 2 left. Gunfire cracked in return. Wood splintered around Coleman, a bullet grazing his ribs. He winced, teeth clenched, but stayed up on 1 knee. Pain was background now, mission louder than wounds. The second rider charged straight in, reckless rage replacing strategy. Coleman barely had time to raise his rifle. The man slammed into him, knocking him hard to the ground. The rifle skidded away. Fists flew, boots kicked. Coleman rolled, taking blows meant to kill. Then instinct. He reached for his boot, pulled his knife, and struck. The rider gasped, stumbled back. Coleman shoved him off, chest heaving. The man crawled, blood staining earth. He wouldn't be getting up again. Coleman rose slowly, unsteady but iron-willed. Only 1 enemy remained, the leader. Silence fell. Smoke drifted. Moonlight carved to worn figures in dust. The leader stepped out, face twisted with hate, revolver leveled. You cost me men. You cost me time. Now I take what's mine. Coleman wiped blood from his lip, voice steady. "Not tonight." The man cocked the hammer. "You think you're a hero? You're just one old fool with nothing left." Coleman's eyes burned like embers. "I got enough." The leader charged forward, gun aimed at Coleman's head. Time slowed, dust suspended, breath frozen. A shot rang out, but not his. The bullet punched into the leader's arm. He staggered, gun flying into dirt. Coleman turned in shock. Ethan stood on the porch, hands shaking around a pistol far too big for him, eyes bright with terror and courage. "Leave him alone," the boy shouted. For the first time that night, the leader looked afraid. And Coleman knew this fight wasn't over, but it was about to end. The leader clutched his arm, shock replaced by fury. "You little," he lunged toward Ethan. Coleman acted before thought. Pain shot through every bone as he sprinted, slamming into the man with everything left in him. They crashed to the ground, wrestling in dirt and blood. The leader clawed for his fallen revolver, fingers inches away. Coleman grabbed him, voice raw. "No more." They struggled, strength against desperation. Then Coleman drove his fist forward with the last of his power. The leader went limp, collapsing beside him in the dust. Silence, real silence. Only wind, only crackling embers from the barn's remains. Coleman breathed long, deep, disbelieving. The nightmare had ended. He pushed himself up slowly. Ethan rushed to him, tears streaking his dusty face. Lizzie followed, clinging to her brother's arm. You're alive," Ethan whispered. Coleman smiled faintly, tired but warm. "Told you I don't fall easy." Lizzie wrapped her arms around his waist. He froze, unused to gentle things, then placed a trembling hand on her back. Family didn't always come by blood. Sometimes it arrived by fire and choice. But victory had cost more than bullets. The ranch, his world, lay half-burned, fences broken, barn gone. Echoes of battle clung to every board and stone. "We can't stay," Coleman said quietly. "Others may come." Ethan nodded, brave again. "Where do we go?" Coleman looked toward the hills where dawn crept in, painting gold across ruin. Somewhere quiet, somewhere new. They gathered what little they could: food, blankets, memories wrapped in dust. Behind the house, hidden by brush, Coleman revealed a tunnel door leading into the earth. Built it years back. Never figured I'd use it to leave for good. Ethan stared. "It's like starting over." Coleman rested a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "Not starting over. Just there's a difference." One last glance back, porch scarred, land scorched, ghosts settling into ash. Loss, yes, but also proof of what stood firm. He whispered, barely audible, "Thank you, Sarah. I kept my word." With Lizzie's hand in his left and Ethan walking beside him on the right, Coleman stepped into the tunnel and into the unknown. They emerged hours later into wild open plains touched by morning light. No bullets, no fire, just wind, sky, and hope. Coleman exhaled the first peaceful breath in years. "All right, kids. Let's build something worth living for." They walked on, three souls bound not by fear, but by choice, toward a future carved from courage and dawn. The cowboy did not hide. He stood. He fought. And in fighting, he found something worth living for.